Good evening. In the early hours of June 22, 2025, the world held its breath as the United States military executed a surprise preemptive strike on three of Iran's most critical nuclear facilities. The code name for this audacious operation, Midnight Hammer. Today, we are going to walk you through the stunning details, revealed at a Pentagon press conference just hours ago. We'll break down exactly how this high-risk mission unfolded, from the decoys to the deep penetrating bombs, and we will assess the critical question on everyone's mind. What comes next in this high-stakes confrontation that could reshape the Middle East? So, how did we get here? For months, the international community has watched with growing alarm. U.S. intelligence reports indicated that Iran had dramatically accelerated its uranium enrichment activities at its key nuclear sites: the deeply buried facility at Fordow, the main enrichment plant at Natanz, and the conversion facility in Isfahan. The enrichment levels reportedly surged far beyond the thresholds established under the now-defunct 2015 nuclear accord. The assessment from Washington was stark. Iran was just weeks, if not days, away from possessing enough weapons-grade material for a nuclear device, with diplomatic channels frozen and regional allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia signaling deep anxiety. The White House made a monumental decision. It authorized a preemptive military strike, a calculated gamble designed to surgically cripple Iran's nuclear capability without igniting an all-out regional war. The official confirmation came in a packed, tense press conference at the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood at the podium, his expression grim. He called the mission a success, stating its goal was to, quote, obliterate Iran's nuclear ambitions before they could threaten the world. Hegseth confirmed for key points. First, the three targets hit were indeed Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Second, this was an entirely U.S.-led operation, with no direct partner involvement to maintain maximum secrecy. Third, deception was paramount. While the real strike force flew east, decoy flights were sent west over the Pacific to mislead adversaries. And fourth, in a constitutionally significant move, key members of Congress were notified under the War Powers Act after the strikes were already underway. Following him, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, laid out the military specifics. He described Operation Midnight Hammer as the largest single-strike mission ever conducted by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber fleet. A total of 7 B-2S were deployed, unleashing 14 massive ordnance penetrators, the legendary 3,000-pound bunker busters designed for exactly this kind of target. So how did they achieve tactical surprise against one of the most heavily defended airspaces in the world? U.S. officials detailed a brilliant and complex two-pronged deception. First, the decoy force. Several B-2 bombers took off from their base and flew west, heading out over the Pacific. This was a deliberate move to mimic a routine patrol, a flight path that would be noticed by Russian and Chinese radar, creating the illusion that America's bomber force was directed elsewhere. Meanwhile, the real strike package 7 stealth bombers took a different route. After a crucial mid-air refueling, they peeled off, flying under the cover of darkness and using their stealth technology to slip through gaps in radar coverage on their way toward Iran. But there was a third element as the bombers approached their targets. A U.S. submarine lurking in the Persian Gulf launched a volley of Tomahawk cruise missiles. Their target, the Isfahan facility. This created 3 distinct points of impact across the country, hitting Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan almost simultaneously, overwhelming and confusing Iranian air defenses. The critical question now is, did it work? According to initial U.S. battle damage assessments, the impact was devastating. Officials claim the underground halls at Natanz, where thousands of centrifuges were spinning, have collapsed. They believe Fordow's heavily fortified centrifuge arrays have been rendered completely inoperable. And at Isfahan, the uranium conversion facility lines are said to be heavily damaged. However, Iran is telling a very different story. Iranian state media quickly broadcast images of firefighters extinguishing small blazes, calling the damage superficial. They have defiantly claimed that their scientists can repair the facilities and resume enrichment within a matter of weeks. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, but a full independent verification could take months. The geopolitical shockwaves were immediate. For the United States, this operation demonstrates 2 things: that its red lines on nuclear proliferation are real, and the incredible reach and precision of its military. But the risks are immense. Tehran has already issued stern warnings, threatening retaliatory strikes on U.S. military bases in the region and against American allies. This raises the terrifying possibility of a tit-for-tat escalation that could spiral out of control. Internationally, the reaction is divided. Key allies like the United Kingdom and France have offered cautious support, backing efforts to neutralize nuclear threats. But Russia and China have condemned the unilateral strike, and the United Nations Secretary-General is urging immediate de-escalation from all sides. Here at home, critics are also raising alarms about the White House by passing a timely congressional notification, arguing it undermines constitutional checks and balances on war powers. The coming days are critical. U.S. assessment teams and intelligence drones will be working overtime, monitoring for any signs of Iranian military movement or renewed nuclear activity. The big question is whether this strike will force Tehran back to the negotiating table from a position of weakness, or if it will double down on its defiance. So far, Iran has publicly refused any direct talks. In response, regional allies are placing their forces on high alert, particularly at bases in Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain, bracing for a potential Iranian response. The world is now watching for Iran's next move. Will it be military retaliation, a diplomatic protest, or a covert cyber attack? Operation Midnight Hammer is a watershed moment in the long and troubled history of U.S.-Iran relations. It is a stark display of what American military power can achieve in a single night, but it also carries the profound risk of igniting a much larger conflict. This story is far from over. The decisions made in Washington and Tehran in the next 48 hours could determine the course of the entire Middle East.